All right, Nick, I am beyond excited to have you at the first episode of Thriving. This is an episode that, is actually, believe it or not, I don't know if you realize this, we are right at the 5-year anniversary of Blackout.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, you're right.
A couple days. Yeah. When I was looking for the videos and stuff, I realized it was actually on my birthday 5 years ago.
Wow.
So we're like a few days away from
no coincidence.
The day that you picked me up in a blacked out SUV, Sprinter van,
put a blindfold on you.
Put a blindfold on me and cranked, Metallica, Enter Sandman, which I just told you is our theme song.
Yeah.
I was at the gym this morning, I heard it, and I was like, there's no coincidences. And you and I, you've always said it, I've adopted it, and I believe in it. It's truly like from the heart, like things happen, and there's no coincidence.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, actually, one of my mentors, more of my spiritual mentor, he said that coincidence is God's way of being discreet. Right? Okay. God's way of being, and I like that because it's like it just shows you that like there is a plan for you, but you got to figure it out. Like it's not going to be laid out, end to end. You got to figure it out, and you got to be willing to take the step down the path, and that's where faith comes in too.
And it seems like there's, we always are presented with choices.
100%.
Right? And I think that's where like fate is where your choices put you. Because I don't believe if you do nothing, you're just going to end up where you're supposed to be. I mean, unless you're supposed to ditch or something. But
no. We have the freedom of choice, but never the freedom of consequence. And consequence, people think consequence is like a negative connotation. Consequence just merely means the definition of what happened after you made a choice, right? Yeah. So there's good consequences, there's bad consequences, and so like you have to actively like make choices. Everybody talks about manifestation, right? Oh, you hear all this stuff. I'm going to manifest it. I'm going to manifest it. I'm manifest. I'm like, well, that's great. But if you take no action, you're just going to sit there and feel good, a temporary dopamine hit. So, I talk about this all the time. It's manifest action. Correct. Manifest it. I'm a big believer in like you got to see it before it happens, but then take the actions that are aligned to actually manifest it. Yeah. Like this podcast. Like you've been talking about this. You've had a vision for it, right? But then now you actually have taken the action to make this beautiful studio a reality, and then now the actions are going to reward you with the consequence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's funny because I was just talking about I always like things to be perfect, but at the beginning of the year I thought I've always wanted this. Let's just build it, right? Like, F it. Let's just buy the stuff, put it together. And the concept was always, is it going to help my business? Is it going to do this? Is it going to do that? And I was watching some Anthony Bourdain's pieces, and I think he was a genius. And I thought about, he said, I want to put out stuff that's interesting and that makes me happy.
Right.
And everybody had been telling me like, oh, you've got to do a real estate podcast. You've got to do this, that, and the other thing. And I don't care. I don't want to do what everybody wants me to do.
Right.
Like, I just want to do something that is interesting to me. And some people like it, some people won't. Who cares?
Yeah.
And what interests me, manifestation, thriving, like growth, right? I've been in growth mode, for the last 5 years. And as you know, and as you've preached, we have. There's these valleys, and you're never constantly in growth mode.
No.
You pull back, you get off path, you recorrect, you course correct, right? So I want to circle back though quickly because we kind of went on this tangent. It's okay because
we just open up the fire hose.
I don't care, but I want to go back to I said 5 years ago. We did this blackout. That was the culmination of the next 90.
Right.
And you've got it on your sweatshirt. It's your brand. It's your mantra. You've brought it back. But I want people to know what it is because, it strongly affected my life. I mean, it altered my trajectory for sure. And it's daily. Let's get granular, but like daily, like journaling.
Right.
Talk about manifestation.
Yeah.
Like for me, I think of these ideas, but and you taught me this, when you put the pen to the paper, it's not, a lot of people are like, I put it in my notes section of my phone.
No.
It's literally taking this and putting it, and if there's some connection that goes through your body into your brain and out into the universe.
No, there is actually like, there's neural pathways that are created in the actual like transcription of from the mind to paper. Like, and I always say that the greatest scripture you'll ever read is the one written from the tip of your own pen. right? Because we get downloads all the time. Whether you believe in God or not, it's inconsequential. But it's undeniable that there's this voice that lives inside all of us, right? It's that thing that says go left when you're like, why do I go left? But you go left, you're like, oh, okay, there it is, right? It's the thing that says don't do that, and you do it, and you get a negative. Shit, I should have listened to myself. That myself inside is that voice, and so when you hear that voice and you physically take a pen and write onto paper, you will blow your mind at what actually will come to realization in your real life, you know? And so it's funny because as you're sitting here, dude, I'm having it's like watching a movie in reverse, you know? All the flashes and pictures are happening because what you don't know or you may or may not know is 8 years ago, so we did your Blackout 5 years ago. 8 years ago, I had just finished up my first Next 90. It wasn't called the Next 90, but I finished up my first 90-day challenge underneath my mentor and coach. And one of the challenges I was like, you know what? I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to go online, and I started this thing called 90 Seconds with Nick. Mm-hmm. The irony is none of them were 90 seconds. I just babbled on forever. Yeah. And the idea was just to talk about what was happening in my life, extract a positive lesson, and just let it go. You know, and I thought, nobody's going to listen to this. And I actually started getting a lot of positive feedback. So I opened up my phone today, and a Facebook memory was like one of my first 90 seconds with Nick. And 90 seconds with Nick and opening my mouth at that time kind of led to the launch of the Next 90, which was in 2018. And I, too, said, you know what? Maybe I should do a podcast, right? And so I launched this not because I had to. At the time, I had two businesses that were doing $30 million each a year concurrently. I wasn't even working in them, you know, but I wanted to find something that made me happy. I wanted to find something that was purpose over profits. I already had the profits. And a lot of people say like, oh, when I make money, I will be happy. I'm like, yeah, like you're just going to solve your money problem. Right. But you're still like happiness is an inside job out. And so I said, well, I have profits. What if I become more prophetic, right? What if I become a prophet of like how I lived and how I got here? You know, like when I started my journey, I was 220 pounds and I was miserable. I didn't even know how I ended up that way. And so the Next 90 was birthed because I found a coach, I found a mentor, I found a group of badass, you know, fathers, husbands, and leaders and entrepreneurs that I could be vulnerable around and say like, shit ain't working. On the outside, it looks good. I'm making, you know, my business doing a couple million a year, but I'm fucking miserable. And they said, look, chunk your life down into 90 days. Like, yes, have your plan, have your vision, write down your 5, your 3, your 1 year plan, but like chunk it down to 90 days and just put some blinders on and go to work, right? And that's where I came up with the concept of Next 90. Yeah. Like we're chasing down the Next 90.
Well, when you look at something in 90 days and then drill it down into 30 days and then drill it down into just what you need to do daily, when you figure out what you need to do daily and you have it written down, you have a list, you have like just an action plan, targets, right?
Yep.
Targets.
Yep.
It's pretty easy to check those boxes.
It's simple, yeah. It's simple. It's not. It's
not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy yet.
Because that's like it's that daily discipline, right? And life is a series of dividends or deficits. Mm-hmm. Dividends or deficits, right? Everything works that way. Like the economy's growing, the economy's like shrinking. You know, real estate market is booming. Interest rates are going up. Interest rates are going down. Plants are living. Plants are dying. Like it doesn't matter. Life, everything is a series of dividends and deficits. And your discipline or lack thereof will determine whether you have a dividend or you have a deficit. Yep. So it's a math equation. And so the Next 90 is you chunk your life down into a 90-day thing. Like you said, you distill that down to 30 days. Then you distill it down to like daily tasks. And, you know, as we focus on what? The core 4, right? Yep. Because there's 4 aspects to us as human beings. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at this table has 4 legs, right? This table is solid. I could push on it. I could pound on it. I could stand on it. This table is not going anywhere because it has one leg planted like on each side of the table on the floor. However, if I took one of these table legs away and I stood over here, like where there was still a leg, no problem. Right. Like it would still stand because my weight is on the strong side of the table. Right. But the moment I start to walk to that side where there's no leg, this table is going to collapse. And then you take another one away, and now it's a balancing act. You take the 3 away, and then it's like the air conditioning can knock this thing over. Our lives are designed the same way. Yep. Like Michael Balliet is thriving because all aspects of his core 4 are working synergistically, which are yielding him a dividend, a disciplined dividend.
Right,
So
right.
it's your physical body, like weaponized. Like when you came to Blackout, you described yourself as skinny fat.
Right.
You know, like, and you had actually lost a lot of weight even prior to that.
Yeah. So at that point, it had been, I don't know, 5 or 6 years of like, being sober and doing triathlons. And when I quit doing triathlons, I got kind of skinny fat, right?
Right.
So like, I was skinny, but I, didn't have much muscle, and I wasn't training, none of
Right.
that stuff. Yeah, I was just kind of existing. So
Right.
I was not thriving.
Right.
I was doing all right.
You were doing good,
I
but
was doing fine.
yeah.
Yeah. And thriving.
Right.
Thriving is growing.
No,
And that's what this is all about, right? So, and the thing is as you said, I mean, you could have dividends in all 4 of your areas, and they could be grown, but they could grow more.
They can. They absolutely can.
And it's funny. It's not funny. It's basically science. Like when you look at where you put your attention, right, then that's going to grow faster, and then the other 3 legs
are gonna.
They may be okay, but they're not thriving.
They're not thriving. No.
Yeah. So
and that's the whole point, is that most people focus, like most people are living in 1 or 2 dimensions, right? So if you look at a human being, we're 4 dimensions. We see in 4 dimensions. We have everything in life is in 4 dimensions, right? So our makeup is our physical body, our overall being, right? Because that's that voice on the inside. Whatever you believe as far as spirituality, the universe, Buddha, God, et cetera, it doesn't matter. But it's inarguable that there's something that's like inside of us. Like we're humans, like we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around. Then we have balance, and balance is not like work-life balance. That doesn't exist. We can talk about that in a moment. But it's balance in your relationships. It's harmonistic ways of people and places and things in your life that are working together to actually like help you thrive.
Yep.
And then there's business, making money.
Yeah.
It matters.
Of course.
It absolutely matters.
Of course.
And so you got a lot of people who make money. They're fat as shit. You got people who are like gym rats and they're freaking broke.
Right.
You got your spiritual people that can't rub 2 nickels together.
Yoga all day long.
And so it's like, like when you see someone that you're really like driven towards, you're like, wow, I promise you, all 4 pillars, body, being, balance, business, are firing concurrently. And there's this polarity, meaning that it pulls you in to that person because like you're lacking it in your life.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the next 90 attacks that gap on a day-by-day basis with very specific outcomes that we're hunting down targets at the end of the 90-day challenge.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so talk about like getting into it granularly, like wake up in the morning, core 4.
Yeah.
I was thinking on my way here, I should have stopped and got some green juices. It's a place where, I mean, you can nitpick, right? Like, so I'm on a very good path for the last, I don't know, 18 months of getting up, journaling, meditating, going to the gym.
Work it out.
My nutrition is on point. I do forget my green juices a lot. Yeah, I'm lacking in that space.
All right.
But spending time with the family, going on vacations, spending a ton of time in the business, like everything seems to.
And
be
how
firing.
would you define the output of all of that? What's the word that you would use to describe the output of all of that?
Dividends
and thriving.
Yeah, dividends
thriving.
And thriving. Yeah,
Right. It's no mystery. Like it's literally no mystery, and I can see it. I can feel it. Like even though you and I mean, we talk quite often, but like I see what's happening on social, and I see what's happening in your business and the deals that you're closing right now. It's not a coincidence.
The crazy part is like on social, I've backed off a lot because I've just been so busy, right?
Yeah.
So things are great. I mean, this is not a show to talk about how great I'm doing, but about how do you get there, right?
Right.
Like, and what do people do? And you have a calling. You do. I mean,
Thank you.
yeah, no, of course. You, like the what you've. I was also thinking about this. You know that saying that says, you didn't pay me for the 15 minutes of work. You paid me for the
15 years
15 years of education or whatever it was. It's like I was
Yeah.
thinking about like how much money and time and effort and everything you've put
it's
into
crazy.
your craft
Yeah.
over the last 10
8
years.
Yeah, 8 years certainly. No, I was probably longer than that. I mean, I started doing like personal development stuff a long time ago. I couldn't figure it out. Like I went to Tony Robbins. I went, I joined Vistage. I joined mastermind groups. I went to Bible study, men's Bible study. I went to retreats. But like when I finally found like this C4, as I call it, core 4, right? it was small, like just like C4, just like quite literally the explosive C4.
Right.
C4 in the military, it's a small plastic explosive device that's put on one side of a barrier to break through that barrier, to go through that barrier and carry out a mission. That's how I look at this core 4. Mm-hmm. It's small. It's simplistic little movements every single day that are explosive in nature, that break down the barriers in my mind, that break down the barriers in my physical world, that break down the barriers in my marriage, that break down my marriage or the barriers in my child rearing, and break down the barriers in business to allow me to go actually answer that calling. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we've been given one life. Why are we going to squander it? And so getting granular, core 4 is just a daily discipline that yields a dividend. Yep. Period. The end. That's the best way to describe it. And it's simple, not easy. Why is it simple? Because when I tell you like what to do, it's quite underwhelming.
Right.
But like the net tangible results.
Like, what? That's it?
Yeah. Because people.
Yeah, but try and do it every day, religiously.
Exactly. Yeah. And try to do it every day without fail for 90 days and prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
No, because you're going to wake up no matter what, right?
Yeah.
You're going to wake up. I mean, there was 2 days ago I woke up late for the gym, and the little guy in my mind,
the little
you're
bitch,
going to be
I call
late.
That the bitch voice.
You're going to be late. You're going to walk in. They're going to give you a hard time. Just skip it, right? Like that. Like this is what happens. But you just got to stay on track.
You have to.
That's that part of it. And then when you get done, you're like, I can't believe I was going to even skip that. Yeah.
The moment your feet hit the floor. Literally, the moment your feet hit the floor, about 30 seconds in, you're up.
Right.
That's what most people don't realize.
Right.
It's in that moment where your eyes open and that internal voice goes off, and the decision to actually rise, right? Rise and thrive is the difference maker between the haves and the have-nots. Like that's it. And so what core 4 is very simple. It's a daily routine every single day to weaponize all 4 legs of your table, to secure your castle. I can go on and on as far as analogies are concerned, but like this body that we have, like this is the vessel that carries us through life, right? Like you would never take a Ferrari and just park it outside and put shit inside of it and let birds crap all over it. But yet somehow we do that to our body, which is way more intricate, way more valuable, and actually way more powerful than any machine on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Right? And so the first thing we have to do is get up and weaponize our body.
Right.
And it could be literally as simple as a 15 to 20 minute walk.
Right.
Just walk.
Right. Move.
Brisk.
Move.
Yeah, move. Get movement and sweat.
Yeah.
Like just work up a sweat, get that heart rate going, because that's the engine that fuels everything, the mind, the gut, like everything. And so after you've worked out, like, and you could do a Tabata. Like a lot of people don't know what that is. If you guys are listening, write that down, Tabata, T-A-B-A-T-A. Try doing one Tabata. Do a 12-minute Tabata and see how you feel.
Right.
Like,
and then tell me you don't have time.
Yeah, you don't need time.
You don't have 12 minutes?
You don't have 12 minutes? Everybody has 12 minutes. Show me your screen on your phone.
Right.
I bet you I'll find a lot more than 12 minutes.
Yeah,
right?
5 hours.
So you basically weaponize your body through working out and fueling it. That's where the green drink comes in.
Yep.
It's putting stuff in your body that's going to prolong your health, because our health is our true wealth. I lost my dad 3 years ago, and he had multiple sclerosis, and it was so hard to watch this strong man just like his body just deteriorated over time. Yep. He would have given anything. He would have given a year off his life. He would have given 5 years off his life to have one last run. And you're telling me you can't get up and do a 12-minute workout? Fuck you. Right. You don't deserve what you say you want because you're not willing to do what's required.
Right.
I digress. However, like weaponize your fucking body.
Right.
It's your vehicle. It's going to carry you through this life. And by the way, the byproduct of that is that it releases dopamine and you're going to be happy. Holy shit.
Right.
And then you go into the being side, this is just connecting to the voice. It's slowing down. Like we live in this age of digital connection and emotional disconnection. Like it's going out of style, right?
And this is simple. Like for me, sometimes it's just after you move your body, just go on and Google like 5-minute meditation.
Yeah.
Put it on the ground.
Lay down. Catch your breath.
Listen to it.
Right.
Just
and
recenter.
All meditation is the practice of being present, because shame and guilt live in the past. Anxiety and fear live in the future. Like oneness and wholeness lives right here.
Right.
It's called like the present because it's a gift.
Right.
We don't know. The past is gone. The future is undetermined.
Yeah.
You know, so fear is future events already realized, right? So we go into the future with some shit and some scenario that we're making up hasn't happened. We bring it to our front door and we're stifled by it, or we keep looking in the rearview mirror and we keep crashing because we're not focused on where we're going. The being side of the core four just allows you to slow the fuck down.
Mm-hmm.
Just tap into that heart. Like this thing will never steer you wrong. Your heart,
Yep.
like your head has all the questions. Your heart always has the answer.
Yep.
And when you can slow down and connect these two, everything becomes clear.
Yep.
And you just take one micro step and you get a macro result over time. And then you're balanced, right? This is probably my favorite one. I love working out. Like I love all that stuff. I love meditation. I love manifestation. I love praying. I love all that stuff. But the balance side is to me is the best one. Because this is where you get to pour into people. Mm-hmm. This is where you get to think about the people in your life, your wife, your children, your friends, your family, your coworkers, people that really mean a lot to you. And you take literally 60 seconds and you pour into them.
Right.
And you just tell them how much you love, honor, and appreciate them in a very authentic way. I mean, I send you love notes like, you know,
Yeah.
two girls at summer camp, you know, but it's like, I love you and I appreciate you. And like, I know that like, no matter what, I can come to you, and I have in some of my darkest times when shit is going south with me and Nicole, when I've just gone on a 2-day drinking bender, and I can just sit there and be myself with you, and you're going to hold space for me, love me, you know, but then say, dude, knock it the fuck off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so like...
And yeah, likewise, I've been there too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have, and I've been there for you. And again, it's dividends and deficits.
Right.
Like I have banked up gratitude and love with you, and you have the same with me, so that someday when you need a withdrawal, it's sitting there.
Right.
When you go and you try to withdraw from an overdrafted relationship, it's just like an overdrafted bank account.
Yeah.
Right?
If I just ask you for favors all
the time, like, dude, you're going to end up being an asshole, A-S-K, hole, asshole. You're just an asshole. You just keep asking, dude. Like, either fucking do it or don't, you know?
Right.
But, and we do this with our wives. We do this with our children. We just want everybody to, like, give to us without, like, actually having given. And so the being side is you just send a message, a video note, voice note. I love it. My kids can are reading now, so I can like text their iPad. You know, I'm up early most days before they're up, and you know they're like, "Where's Daddy?" But they can grab their iPad and they can see like, Daddy already sent them something. What if I get in a car accident on the way home? Like, dude, my daughter is 9, my son is 8. Like their memories of me would fade pretty quickly, right? Like if I passed away.
Yeah.
However, they
Except
can,
for all the content you've provided.
Well,
which is,
this
is part of the reason we do all this too, right?
That's another thing. Yeah, they could go back. Just quick point on that is my daughter, like all these 90 seconds with Nick are starting to resurface. They're in my memories. And she see, like I have my kids in them a lot, and they love watching that. But they don't get it now, but they will when they're my age, when they're 30, when they're 40. They're like, fuck, dude, my dad wasn't perfect, but motherfucker was trying.
Right.
You know, like he was always on a mission to be a better father, husband, business leader, and man.
Yep.
And that's what I want to distill into them, you know? And I don't hide anything from my kids. I can't have super conversations with them right now because they don't comprehend it. But someday I'm going to tell them about all my fuck-ups,
right?
You know, all my drug abuse, all my, you know, like whoremongering and all the shit that I did. Because, like, I want them to understand that there was consequences to those decisions, right? There was deficits of that lack of discipline.
Yeah.
And so that's the being side. And then the business side is, what the fuck are you going to do today?
Right.
I call it RGA, revenue generating activities.
Yep.
What are you going to do to RGA? Like, what are you going to do to generate revenue? Because there's a difference between activity, which is just being busy. Anybody can be busy. We live in a world where you could be infinitely busy doing fucking nothing. Or you could actually be, like, I call it activity versus productivity, right? And it's almost the same word except for that prefix, pro. Being a pro, being a professional, right? You have to train like a professional athlete. You and I are not professional athletes. We're not even professional mathletes, for Christ's sakes. But we are professionals.
Yeah.
Like, and so why don't we train like an athlete would?
Right. Which is learn something about your craft every morning.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Learn something
or
about
a new craft.
Exactly.
Right.
Learn something
Expand
about your
your
craft. Exactly. Expand your craft, expand your reach, expand like your mind, right? And then actually go and apply it. So to distill it all down, in 45 minutes to an hour, you could weaponize yourself and be on fire. It would look like this. Alarm clock goes off anytime. I don't give a fuck. People are like, should I do it at 4 a.m.? I'm like, you should just do it. Like, how about that?
Right.
Like, whatever it is.
Whatever you can do consistently.
Whatever you can do consistently. Whatever you can be disciplined at to get the dividend, right? And so you get up at, call it 7 a.m., put on your running shoes, hit the door, get out the door. Go for a 20-minute walk. No phone, nothing. And get up that sweat. Just walk and just think and just, commune with that inner voice inside. To your point, when you're done, open up YouTube. Whatever you're feeling, type in that word, the duration, and the word meditation afterwards. So if you're feeling fearful, 5-minute fear meditation, 5-minute gratitude, 5-minute money, 5-minute anxiety, 5-minute whatever it is. Yeah. I promise you, there's this great website called Google, called Google.com. You can Google anything and find it. So you have a 5-minute meditation.
And I will say, for me, I'm not going to say what other people should do, but for me, maybe not even necessarily what I'm feeling, but what I want to feel.
Right.
Because sometimes I want to redirect
that
my
energy.
brain, right?
Yeah.
So if I am feeling anxiety, I don't want to listen to an anxiety, I'm just saying me, I don't care what other people do. But I will go to a gratitude, and all of a sudden, the anxiety's gone. Right? Because you can't focus on two things at once.
No, gratitude and anxiety can't coexist. And conversely, gratitude can't exist if anxiety is there. But we can train our mind to flip over to the other and then get exactly what we want.
Yeah. And that's, again, the first thing I like to do is put pen to paper with gratitude.
Yeah.
That's how my journaling always starts.
100%.
You got to be thankful for what you have. Like, a lot of people focus on just what they don't have.
I mean, I
that's
forget
that scarcity where it just continues, right?
Yeah, I forget where we were. We were somewhere, and we saw this family, and they had like 2 like radically disabled children, and I'm like, I look at Nicole, I'm like, how fucking lucky we are.
Yeah,
like
just at that level, right?
Like, do you know how lucky we are that A, we weren't born that way.
Right.
B, our children weren't born that way. Actually, almost all the people we know, children weren't born that way. That we live in California, that we grew up, in like middle class families. Do you realize the fucking head start that we have on 99% of the human population?
Right.
And we're gonna fucking squander it.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Complain about things.
Right.
Right.
And so when you write down, like you talked about, like when you journal, like gratitude, then you're like, okay. Some of that fear and anxiety subsides because, like, when you're not grateful for what you have, you're either shameful or you're like fearing that it won't come. But it's impossible to do that through the practice of meditation and gratitude in your journal, right? Yeah. And then just write whatever you feel.
Yeah.
Because when you get your thoughts out on paper, they actually now become into the 4-dimensional world, and it gives you a lot of perspective on, are these true, right? So you've walked for 20 minutes, you've meditated for 5, you journaled for 10, then you spent 4 minutes, like leaving a voice note, video note, Post-it note to people that you love in your life, letting them know how important they are to you. This came in so handy when my dad died. I know my mom was so alone, and like for days, like I mean, I tried to do 365 days, and I actually, I didn't. Life got in the way, and it actually became very, very hard. Like, it just was a painful reminder every day. So I think at a subconscious level, I ran from it. But like I would say, 365 reasons I love you, and then I'd pick something that I loved about my mom, and then the next day, because I knew she was alone, but like she didn't have to feel alone, right? When she woke up, she could know that like, wow, like he's gone, but like we got these children, and it was then like fucking put a price tag on that, you can't. My mom can save all of those. And then, so you do those messages, and then you just study something around your business. You figure out how you're going to apply it to your business. You write down your RGAs, and you go to fucking work. And you do that 90 days in a row, and you tell me that your life isn't better.
Yeah, and when you study something around your business, you deploy that out to people.
Correct.
So share it with people.
Yeah, study and declare.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So it's body is fitness and fuel. Being is meditation and journaling. Balance is, partner, and then, posterity or people, right? So your wife or your girlfriend or whoever, or your husband, and then people in your life, and then business is study, declare, and then RGA. And you do that for 90 days. And I'm not talking like Monday through Friday. I'm talking Monday through Sunday for 90 days, all day, every day. Yeah. And you tell me that wherever you are, you're not going to have progressed. Every time I speak, I do keynotes, and I've been in rooms of 10. I've been in rooms of, a couple thousand. I say, I will give everybody in this room $1,000 if they do what I just said for 90 days, and they can come and look me in the eye, like unequivocally, and say their life didn't improve.
Right.
I said, do the math,
Well, and the key, honestly, the key is if you just do that, you're going to improve.
Of course.
But if you're just going to go out and walk without a map, you don't know where you're going to end up.
100%.
Right? So you have to pick a target.
Correct.
So that you can measure against it, because this is all, you can self-measure, but a lot of people lie to themselves. So pick a target that you can measure against, and then tell me whether or not you made progress to that target. Whether you reached it, yes or no. Whether you got 3/4 of the way, halfway, or quarter of the way. And you're going to know, if you were serious and you don't lie to yourself, that you're probably, unless you pick a target that's unattainable, but you're going to make progress. And we always say progress over perfection.
And inside of that progress is actually where you find your purpose, right? That's it, period, the end. Like, that's like, we want to tie it to this, we want to tie it to that, we want to tie it to the next thing. It's just about a constant game of expansion and progression. Yeah. And if you're doing that, you're 99% of the time, your life is going to be working, and you're going to be, mostly happy, right? Peaks and valleys, but that's it. Yeah. And then at the end of 90 days, you look back, you go, cool, that was a good 90. What's on the next 90? Right. What's on the next 90? What's on the next 90? It's about 90 years of your life, kind of living in this way and imagining what you could do.
And the compounding effect of it.
Compounding effect. That dividend, it compounds. The deficit, it compounds. Yeah. It's pretty simple. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
So what I want to do is I want to tie this into, you've made some moves, and you've taken these disciplines and these concepts, proven concepts and disciplines that work, and you've moved into other spaces. So I know that you've got the next 90, and that's back, but you've taken that and you've applied it to entrepreneurs. You've gone into mergers and acquisitions. You've gone into raising money with private equity. One of the things I was thinking about as I was kind of mentally preparing for this is I want to hear, what differences can you establish, or just sort of have you identified between, that entrepreneur, the millionaire, and the billionaire, and what traits have you been able to, what have you learned?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate. I've been around. I was at a party the other day, and there was 4 billionaires in the room. Like, when do you ever get that, right? Billionaire families, well, I should say.
You get that because you earned it. You have now put in the work over 8 years, compounding growth. Yeah, to put yourself in that room.
I've become the person that
this
can
is
stand.
Not luck.
Yeah, I become the person that can stand in that room and has been invited to have a seat at the table, right?
Yeah, why? Because you bring value.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and I own that, and I receive that. But I look at them, and I do that all the time, right? I'm like, comparison is the thief of joy, but it's like it's ingrained into all of us. So I can't help but compare, why? But it's literally, it boils down to this: the way they think, the way they operate, period, the end. So it's the way their mind is programmed to believe who they are, what they are, and then the actions they take that are in alignment with that belief. Therefore, they get the belief. Our guy Nick Alfano, he runs the program, right? So Nick Alfano has a saying, and I love it. It's called raising the bar, right? Or lowering the bar. Like, you heard that all the time. We need to raise the bar. Like, well, shit, we've certainly lowered the bar on that, right? And so he broke it down into a very simple way to understand it. It's belief, action, result. Belief, action, result. The mind is a closed loop circuit. It has to find validation and confirmation for whatever it's thinking. So if you're like, I'm a loser, you're going to go seek and find things subconsciously that remind you that you're a fucking loser, right? If you're like, I'm a winner, then your mind, so your beliefs drive your actions drive your results. The example he uses is, I'm terrible at interviewing. I'm such a terrible interviewer. That's my core belief. Then I got to go into this interview, like I show up already thinking I'm going to be a terrible interviewer. Therefore, I interview terribly, and then I don't get the result, which affirms my belief of I'm a fucking terrible interviewer, right? It's the same thing.
Loop, yeah.
And so I look at these billionaires and these decamillionaires that I know and I spend time with, and I was like, they're just fucking thinking at 10 times more than I am. Like if my biggest business did, 60 million a year, they're just thinking 10 times higher than that. It's the same amount of effort, same amount of hours in the day. It's just you have different actions and are oriented different to go towards that result, And this works. Like actually, I'm just having a moment right now because the next 90 I've done it in all sorts of settings. I did it at MAC Cosmetics, for when your wife was one of the executives over there.
Yeah.
We went in and it was like the most eclectic group of human beings
For sure.
I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And we taught them the next 90 principles and they were jiving, they were thriving.
Some thrived hard. Yeah,
Us
yeah.
hard.
I heard, yeah.
And they
yeah.
still I still see them sometimes at your parties and they hug me and thank me. And then we did it for Bank of America. I took a mortgage company from 300 million to $1 billion in like 18 months using these principles. But now I'm specifically in what I call the exitpreneur space. It's a phrase that I coined and I made up, but it's taking entrepreneurs and turning them into exitpreneurs, through the principles of the next 90. And meaning most entrepreneurs know how to get into business. Very few know how to scale a business. And even fewer know how to actually like exit that business and have a liquidation moment where they can create wealth.
Right.
Most entrepreneurs treat their business like an ATM, right? Like it makes money, I suck the money out, I go buy shit, I post shit online so people think I'm fucking cool, validates my belief, I go make more money, I buy more shit. And I'm like, I've been there, right? I've been there. Like
that's the same. This that loop.
Yeah, the Ferrari Nick, man. That guy was fucking. He had a bright red Ferrari, a terrible faux hawk, a collection of Ed Hardy shirts, and like was one giant douchebag, right?
Yeah.
Because like I thought that stuff was defining me, and it wasn't at all. And so,
it sort of did.
It did at the time. I mean, listen, there were some dividends there were some dividends that I reaped as a reward of that, but they were all false positives for the most part.
Yeah.
And so anyway, like now what I do is I teach people like every ATM is attached to a bank at some point, right? It doesn't matter if it's a freestanding ATM or if it's on the outside of a Chase bank. The bank is the one that's fueling the ATM to allow you to pull cash out of it. So if you actually can have some delayed gratification by having vision, that 5-year, 3-year, 1-year plan, you can compartmentalize your life into next 90s. You can actually create a company that has wealth that can bank you and your family and their families for the rest of their life. It could be a proverbial ATM in your entire daisy chain of your family. So at least like you can remove the money issue for the next generation, right? Because we put so much weight and value on money that we all work so hard to get it that we actually lose life in the process and pursuit of it. It's the most fucked up kind of dichotomy ever. And so what I found was with these mergers and acquisitions and raising capital, like a person has to be investable in order to get an investment. A person has to be acquirable in order to be acquired. And they want it to be this outside, in job. I'm like, no. I'm investing in you, Michael Balliet. I'm investing my belief in you that whatever you have on this cute little like spreadsheet and pie charts and PowerPoint, like your business plan, that's only as good as the businessman. Right. And so like you need to invest into yourself. And so I've kind of now, because I went down the road on a couple really big mergers and acquisitions that were going to put multiple 7 figures like in my pocket. And I always did my job. I always delivered the offer. I delivered multiple offers. I over-delivered on the offer. And then all of a sudden, the businessman backed out. Or the businessman didn't disclose something and it torpedoed the deal. It was never what we did. It was who they were and what they were doing or not doing, right? And so I said, time out. Like no longer am I going to not be in control of my income by not being in control of the outcome. I'm going to go take control of the outcome and I won't have to worry about the income. And so now what we've done is we're catching people much earlier in the conversation of exiting. We're having them think much bigger about the ultimate exit because the only thing that you and I have in common is that we're both going to die. The question is when, and that's the mystery of life. But we can control like who we were, how we lived, who we touched, and what we've been left behind. I said inside of all of us, like we've all been called to lead a certain group of people. We've all been called to live a certain way, and we're all called to leave it all, right? But if you don't get those first two right, you're going to leave very little.
Right.
And there's two buckets of wealth. There's like the monetary wealth bucket, and then there's the 90 seconds with Nick bucket that my kids can show their great grandkids, you know, or my great grandkids. Hopefully, I'm alive. Like this was my dad.
Right.
You know, like, and they're like, wow, you know, fuck, you had a man bun? What was going on with that? But, you know, like
that's your legacy.
Yeah, exactly. A terrible decision, right? But anyway, so now what I've done is I'm like, look, I'm going to get the businessman clear. I'm going to make sure that when we can transact, that we transact, and that you know that your business is not you. It's what you created, but you are a creator. You could create over again. Because most of these guys, they don't know who they're going to be on Tuesday when they sell the company on Monday. And their identity's tied up in it. And all of a sudden, I did all this work, and I'm standing there with my dick in the wind, and I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. So now we're educating the market. We're giving them what we call the execution, and we're turning them from entrepreneurs to exitpreneurs to go to this thing what I call is execution, and then giving them the finances to do something like this, dude. You've spent a fucking pretty goddamn penny on this place. And who knows if it's going to monetize or not. But it will materialize like that happiness in doing something that you love for you.
Yeah, that's why I did it.
Yeah.
I have no idea if it's going to make money for me,
Who
but
cares?
I don't care. No, I just want to put this. I want to put this out.
Yeah, exactly.
People to hear the things that make me happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, make me thrive.
Yeah, make you thrive, bro.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just as you were speaking, I was thinking about we tried. So I wanted to put together a video, which maybe we'll do in post. But
get with it, post production. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. I was looking at the video you produced for me.
Yeah.
The gift you gave me from Blackout 03.
Yeah.
And there was a scene in the beginning down at Blackie's Beach where you were talking about building the foundation, and you let the sand go. And you talked about the rock or the sand.
Right.
It's impactful, but I'm thinking about as you were dealing with some of these people where you had no idea what the foundation was built versus now the key is you're helping them build the actual foundation, which is key. The foundation to everything.
I actually go in, like to use that analogy, I actually go in and I demo the whole place. You know, I rip all the drywall off, I expose everything so I can see, like, I want to know if they have a marital problem. I want to know if they have an addiction problem. I want to know if they have a pornography problem. I want to know if they have a gambling problem. I want to know if, you know, they got a heart problem, because like it's the businessman. And so I rip it down, and now I know what I'm dealing with. If I know what I'm dealing with, then we can bring in whatever specialist we need to move this wall, move that wall, you know, get a cardiologist, whatever it is that we need. And then we can resurrect and build something that's even more equitable. It's not different than what you guys do when you go into these homes, you know?
The thing is it when, like, you know, when you think about that though, you can't have a business that is reliant on one man.
No,
you have to build a foundation and systems, right? And it's you know, everything falls back on having the proper systems or the proper discipline. But you can't. I mean, yes, they sell key man insurance, but if the man who built whatever it is you're doing is gone, can it exist? So you have to build things that way.
100%. But like, but at the end of the day, when the reason why I focus so heavily on the entrepreneur, founder, CEO is because they're the ones that's driving the vision, and they're the one that's driving the.
Typically, it's the business, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like, if I get them here and I get them to the 5-yard line. Like, they got to punch it in. They got to sign on the dotted line. They got to let go of their baby. They got to understand that their people are taken care of. And there's a lot of idiosyncrasies that come into it. So one of the first things that we do, you know, for our high ticket, you know, exit architecture clients is we make them do 30 days of Core 4 unbroken. I want to see if they have the discipline to do that, because like, in deals and deal flow, people get what I call deal fatigue. They just get worn the fuck down, right? You were in M&A, you know. And so I want to see what kind of stamina they have. And honestly, if they don't want to do that, I don't want to work with them. Right. And I live in an abundant world. There's, for every business that's for sale right now, there's only 2 out of 16 that'll be acquired. That's a travesty. That's an absolute travesty. Right. And so my mission, my calling is to close that gap and help people actually liquidate from their company so they can go fucking live life on their terms and actually create what I call true EV, right? In the M&A world, mergers and acquisition world, like what your business is worth is defined as enterprise value.
Right.
Like EV, what's your EV, what's your EV? I want them to create the other EV, which is eternal value. Whether or not you believe in God, like I said, we already addressed that. But you can create something like this podcast, a book, like, churches, charities, communities, children that adorns your name or has your DNA woven through it that will live on long after you're gone.
Yep.
Like even today, my dad lives as I speak his name to strangers that never even heard about him, right? That is eternal value. Right. And so that is really, because at the end of the day, my watch, your whole entire watch goddamn collection, it's gonna stay here.
There isn't one.
it's gonna stay here.
Yeah.
So but what are we building in our lives by banking on ourselves, right? Through these principles of daily deposits that will yield dividends for eternity. Mm-hmm. Like, figure that shit out, and your life will be absolutely thriving.
Yeah. It's brilliant. So the last thing I say is, are you taking on new clients? Like, how do people reach you? How do they find you?
Yeah, for sure. Always taking on new clients. I'll take new clients on and get less sleep before I turn, someone who's wanting and willing away. So the best way that they can follow me on Instagram. That's just @NickLong, my name @NickLong. In there, you can click the link in the bio. That'll take you to nxt90.com, nxt90.com. You got to put the www in front of it. We're working on that. Maybe by the time this episode drops, we're not fucking perfect people.
It's 2024. Come on.
I know. www.nxt90.com. We're always taking on clients. You must be an entrepreneur. You must be wanting to exit, and you must be willing to invest in yourself. You're not investing into me and my program. You're investing into the man in the mirror, and that's all I do is I hold up a giant ass fucking mirror, and then I point you towards the future possibilities, hold you fiercely accountable, lock arms, and we go. And we achieve like big results 100% of the time. We do the work.
Yep. I hope people get the chance to know you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I mean, beyond this,
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I woke up this morning, and my voice is still a little hoarse, but it was gone this morning.
Oh, no way.
It was absolutely gone. And I'm like, fuck. And I was like in the car driving to the gym, and I'm like, me. Trying
I was going to ask you if you did that.
Trying to warm it up. But the funny thing is this thing said came to me and said, your voice is hoarse, but your heart is full. Because I just started thinking about like our journey, and I thought about today and what it was going to mean, and like not just right here, this conversation, but so many conversations you and I have had, there's so many walk and talks that you and I have had, there's so many what the fuck are you doing back and forth to each other that we've had, our children hanging out together, our wives hanging out together, like busting balls in the office, like cutting loose and having fun, and all of that. Like I was just like, fuck, dude, this is special. Like it really is.
What I love about it is that we look back, we've known each other way longer than 5 years, but we look back to the beginning of the Blackout phase
experience,
and we look at where we are today, and we're both radically higher, which is great. So this is not bullshit.
No.
This works.
Yeah.
We're not both trying to figure things out.
Right.
Like they're figured out.
And
you do see though, like after COVID, I had this little spell where, my wife was like, "Hey, why don't you have a glass of wine with me during COVID?" And I thought,
could be the end of I'm 5 years sober. What could go wrong?
It could be the end of the world. Who cares? We didn't know what was going to happen.
No,
we're walking around with gloves and masks and shit. So
let's get fucked up.
And so there was a little 2-year hiccup where I had a lot of fun and we went out and we drank and we did all that. But I watched my life get worse. Yeah, it didn't. I mean, look, it didn't fall apart.
No, of course not.
My business was still good. Dude, I held that
the
together.
The tables of your leg just became a little weaker.
I sit at 165. I was going 205, and it was not a pretty 205. It wasn't.
That's a big girl.
It was a fat. It was a sloppy 205. And look, but again, course correct. I was like, you know what, this is, and it was, a little bit of my wife, a little bit of my friends, a little bit of my own inner, talk, and a lot of thinking about the shit we went through. And I thought, you know what, let's get this back. And so it's been a year.
Just get back on the next 90, baby.
Yeah, I'm on it. I mean, it's
No, that's what I'm saying. That's all
It
it
never
is.
went away. Like
Right.
there were still a lot of the little components.
Oh, you're doing like core 2, core 1.5, core good enough.
I mean, look, when you go, to Solani's and you have 3 glasses of wine and you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'll just sleep an extra half an hour,
Right.
and then you don't work out, and then
Right.
you have the egg sandwich for breakfast,
Right.
and then you have a big lunch, and
Yeah,
then maybe you have a drink at lunch.
You gotta have a drink at lunch, man. You gotta get rid of it.
And closing deals, so everything's all right.
I'm killing it. I close a deal. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want from me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we know it works.
It does work.
Proof is in
One last thing, because the irony of today is, and no coincidences, that your brother, Franklin Swan, that you went through Blackout with,
Yep.
I'm on his podcast right after this.
No.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
And I didn't tell him to, like you both reached out, said, can you do this day? And I said yes. And so he's now launched his podcast,
Yes.
called The World Needs Men.
Correct.
And
Yep.
so, like, look at the butterfly effect of that, right? Like, one man decides to change his life, and he's vulnerable enough to admit his shortcomings and connect authentically with another man who says, you know what, I want to change my life, or I want to better my life, right? And then my message is being spread all the time. I'm social media all the time.
Yeah.
But then now your message is being spread, and there are people that you've been called to lead by the way that you are living.
Yep.
And then you're designing what you ultimately want to leave.
And coming up after you is Paul Daftarian,
Let's
my
go.
brother-in-law. So, and
Hey,
the
bro.
interesting part is look, he's going to want to come on here and talk about real estate, and I'm not having it. This is not a real estate show. No, but he is thriving.
He's like, have you seen our $40 million listing?
Yeah, yeah. Did you know we're number 1 in Newport Coast?
Rated number 5 by the Wall Street Journal.
No, but he's thriving. He has joined up the gym that we go to is a boutique gym called Stark.
Right. He's doing the Stark Naked
He's
challenge,
doing
right?
Stark Naked.
Does that mean you have to get naked at the end of it?
I hope not. I don't know.
Jesus.
Yeah. He is doing 5.5 months sober.
Wow.
He's counting his calories. He's walking around putting everything in his phone.
Wow.
So
Pauly D, let's go.
Yeah. And I heard him. We were at the gym the other morning together, and I heard him trying to negotiate on the huge 30-foot wall. There's a mural of this absolutely shredded dude, and Paul was like, "Hey, I think you should put up the winner of the competition
right up there
on the wall." He's like, "I'll pay for it."
Wow.
I was like, "That's all we need is Paul." It's a 30-foot mural of Paul
Dude,
with his shirt off. Come on, no.
He's going to have to shave his chest.
Oh my God. He'll have you help him.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah. No, that's his back. All right, we're gonna leave it on a funny note. I appreciate you, brother.
Dude, I love you so much, man.
Thanks, man. You too.
This was great.
All right, we'll wrap this up. You're coming back. We're gonna,
lots more to unpack.
Next time, we got a lot to talk to.
Just live a life that is thriving, people. Period.
right.
The end.
Please.
We out.
Amen. We out. Nice.